the best way that I like to put it is I get a very good mix of the creative side and the analytical side. So
welcome to episode 146 of The Route, presented by White Whale Marketing. The Route is a glorified sports business coffee chat that has a new guest every episode as they share their experiences and route in sports. I'm Chris Nascimento, and let's get started. As always, just a couple things to cover before we get into today's guest. First, if you're watching us on YouTube, you can see the top hand in the corner here. It says at The Route Sports. Follow us on all social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. I'm missing something, LinkedIn, and all those other good platforms where there you can kind of see who's the next guest of the week. You can see little snippets. Connect with us there where you can maybe engage with myself, the guests, or even just like-minded people to kind of grow your network. So check us out there at The Route Sports. And if you look at the traditional social media platforms like Facebook, YouTube, all those good ones there, you can see different little clips and snippets from the episodes. So you can kind of maybe tune in to see which episodes kind of stand out to you then you'd like to see as well. So check us out at The Route Sports. And one more thing before we get into today's guest, and if you haven't already, take the time to subscribe, follow, like, rate 5 stars to the podcast on whatever platform you're listening on. I believe we're on 10 audio platforms at the moment. So that's Amazon, Google, Apple, Spotify, all those good ones there. And then for YouTube, as I mentioned earlier, it's not at The Route Sports, but it's under White Whale Marketing. So it's White Whale MKTG. We have the Route playlist there where you can see different clips, old video episodes as well. And you can see, the guests in the flesh, let's say. So with that said, take the time to do that. But with that now said, we can get into today's guest. So I'd now like to welcome our second White Whale Marketing alum to the podcast. I originally connected with this guest when they were still a student at SFX, and we hit it off. They ended up helping us with White Whale Marketing, with design, marketing, all that cool stuff. And from there, they went on to OPSM Pro as marketing coordinator, and now they're digital advertisement and activations coordinator at Ottawa Sport Entertainment Group. AJ Hewish, welcome to The Route. How's it going?
Not too bad. How's it going?
Not too bad. It's cool to finally have you on. We've had her all on. I'm sure we'll get Caleb on one day, but as the Route says, take me through it. So maybe how did you fall in love with sports? Why did you decide on SFX? And we'll get to where you are now from there.
Yeah, one of the big things growing up, grew up in a very soccer-focused and strong British family, watching soccer, every morning. Moved to Canada when we were younger, started playing hockey, started playing volleyball, just sort of got encompassed by everything related to sport, whether it was, going to volleyball practice or track practice after school, and then soccer practice for club immediately after, starting to play at a decent level here in Ottawa with West Ottawa. And then sort of just progressively developing in sport to a point where I got the opportunity to go play university soccer at St. FX out in Antigonish, Nova Scotia. Got a chance to play for 4 years there, obviously interrupted by the COVID season, unfortunately, but thankfully was given the opportunity there to be one of the very few lucky people to be in the very first ever sport management minor available at St. FX, where we did have an amazing prof come in, Professor Tom Fabian from U Ottawa, I believe he's at now. Just sort of started to learn everything about the business side, what I was learning during my time as a BBA student there, and sort of got to combine the two worlds that I had grown up with. So the sport and then obviously the business side of things, which I was really streamlined and focused on since high school. Got to combine the two and just fell in love with it. Loved sort of looking at the back end side of things, working with St. FX Athletics and getting to actually play the sport every day. I really got interested in the sort of the back end operations and the management side of things. And it was all from there, just looking at different things I could do and get involved in as much as I could in my time at university, and, further that as I graduated.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. And I guess even just going back, as the podcast, I always go to the beginning, then we'll work our way through it. Let's say, I think some of the questions when I first started the podcast, I would get through these pages is, how did you make that initial decision, right? Where sometimes I get messages saying, hey, how'd you pick that school? How'd you pick that program? I think what you were mentioning there, even I guess when you're in high school, you did that streamlined process for business. How did you personally know this is, let's say, my route. I already knew that this is what it was, and how did maybe you kind of refine it from there? Because I'm sure most people, whether it's myself or other guests we've had, there's maybe sometimes an impasse you get to when you're in university, and you're like, maybe it's a bit more of this, or maybe it's a bit more of that. So maybe touch on that a bit further.
Yeah, I was really lucky going to the high school that I went to, West Carleton out in Dunrobin. When I was there, I took as many credits as I could in the credits that I was required to. I took all the sciences, and I believe in like my grade 10 year, and then a few in my grade 11 year. Realized that the arts or the sciences wasn't really for me. I have an older brother. He graduated from St. FX with a human kinetics degree. I remember when I was still in high school, he was coming back to Ottawa for breaks and showing me the stuff he was doing. And I realized that, the science side of things wasn't really for me. I was really fortunate enough to have the opportunity to, experience these unique programs that we had at my high school, which a lot of them didn't. So I was able to take, law classes. I was able to take accounting classes. We did have a sort of introduction to business class. We had a business tech where we learned all about Photoshop and Excel and all the technology side of business. And it was really through that where I realized, okay, I really enjoyed these accounting classes, or I really enjoyed the business management classes, and really didn't like, the math side of things. I didn't really like the sciences like physics or chemistry or biology. And from there, I just started to really enjoy the business side of things. And it was from there where I decided, hey, I'm now going to look for a business program. I think it's the best, career path for me. And from there, it was just really deciding where I wanted to go. I knew I wanted to do business. I knew I was in love with sport, loved playing all sorts of sports. So from there, my brother, he's also alumni from St. FX. He was also on the soccer team at St. FX. Went down there to visit and, fell in love with the town. A lot of schools, you've got tens of thousands of students. We were a tiny school. We only had, I believe, 6,000 students, which is, over half of the town's population during a school year. So really small town. I was able to walk everywhere, really beautiful, Nova Scotian campus, and went there on a visit, got to play soccer, got to meet all the guys, got to go to the business school there and sort of check it out. And, instantly it was a match. I knew I wanted to go there. Yes, had some other options of where I wanted to go, but this was what I felt the best option for me, close to my brother there. And then really just fell in love with what they were offering as a student and also as an athlete at that time.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. And I guess going back to your time when you're maybe entering school or maybe attending St. FX, how did you maybe kind of carve your own niche? Because I know when I was in school, right, I think in my last semester, that's the first time I kind of realized there was, what was it? Sports business club, right? I went 4 years in my business program, just did that, worked on the side. That was it. And then the last semester, then I started learning about, hey, there's maybe more niches like minors or, clubs as well. And I know that was something you're saying where you kind of got involved in it. Do you think it was because through playing a sport on campus or at the university, that's something where you began to learn a bit more about the athletic side of it, and that's how you kind of got involved? Or was there maybe like in a class, or like what kind of stood out to you that kind of gave you that initial experience?
I think it was really a bit of both. We were a really small school. Like I said, not as many students as you typically get at a Canadian university. So I was really able to connect with, many different people, whether it was students, whether it was people working in faculty or professors, or if it was people working for St. FX Athletics, especially with coaches, our head of marketing over at St. FX Athletics, social media managers. It was such a small group that I was sort of able to, like what you've done many, many times before, is, ask questions, find out what their story was. And it made me able to sort of frame what I wanted to do. Like you said, finding that niche, it was a combination of, it was in the COVID year, was able to, help out with some of the activities going on with St. FX Athletics. If it was, posting on the St. FX soccer Instagram page, or, helping with fundraisers, but also being able to be one of the first students in that sport management minor at St. FX, along with my business degree. It opened up quite a few more doors where we went into specific detail about, how partnerships work. We went into the history of sport. We went into sort of how sport works in society today. More, event management is one of the big things that we focused on. And I think it was around that, second to third year, we did a project with what we call our sport management society there. We called it, I believe at the time, was Sport Management Student Roundtable, where there was a group of us who were invited by our professor to just chat about sports, chat about marketing, and the combination of the two, and if we had any ideas, and just to brainstorm different things and sit down, once every few weeks. And it was there when we started to do, working on proposals on different projects we'd like to see at our school. So I think one of them was a fantasy basketball team for youth sports teams, and teams specifically in the AUS, and working on a rebrand of our website and a redesign of our St. FX Athletics website, and getting to sort of look more into detail on all of the different components of that really made me realize, okay, I really enjoy doing this, or, this isn't the topic that I prefer to work on. And it allowed me to realize, okay, I like doing A, I like doing B, I don't like doing C. Now I can sort of focus on what I want to do. It's giving me a better idea. As I approach that third and fourth year, trying to start getting involved more with the sport marketing stuff further, and then post-graduation looking to actually grow in my career.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And to be honest, right before we got on this podcast, I was working on something or writing it, and it was about kind of just doing, right? And I think that's really where you end up learning a lot about it, right? Whether it's in school and, being a part of these clubs or these roundtables that you're saying where you're kind of really sparking these ideas, or whether it's, I'll use my experiences too, where I kind of just made this personal brand, kind of went on from there, even with White Whale Marketing. When we were doing those, live streams, I remember once you, me, and Haral, we did, I think it was the Team Canada live stream. Like, hey, let's just try it out. It was COVID, and then I think we had, I forget the exact number. I think at one point there was 100 people watching the game with us, and I was like, oh, there's something there. Obviously, I was just kind of testing it out, and I pitched it to some athletes to see if they wanted to do it, but no, at the time. But it was really kind of cool where, trying all these different things and doing it really allowed you to kind of grow from there. And one of the things I appreciated too, just getting close to yourself and Raul, when we had that White Whale Marketing chat where we kind of just throw ideas, or, hey, did you see this? It really kind of, let's say, sharpening or sharpening iron, something like that. I think that's the quote. I think that's kind of cool too. So I think that's kind of great advice that you have there, even just those experiences. So I think those listening, whether they're in a position like that or they're done school as well, just kind of finding ways to continue doing that is super important. And I guess then progressing through, your university career. Sorry, stumbling on my words there. How did you then take it to the next step? Was it something where, I don't know, was it with that professor at that round table, or was it something maybe in your class, like, hey, go get an internship, or what was it that are like, hey, now it's time to maybe start looking at something to maybe get that experience? Because I know for myself, what really kind of, let's say, lit a fire under my ass is I switched from accounting to marketing. I was like, oh man, I don't have any experience in marketing. So that's why I went out. So was there anything that kind of lit underneath you to kind of say, hey, like, it's time to get going a bit here? Or was there something in school? How did that go from there?
I think one of the big things was, similar like what you said. I was starting my fourth year. So this would have been September of 2021. We're coming out of COVID. I'm realizing now there's more opportunities. I'm still in school. I've got, 2 semesters left before, I'm moving back from where I was in Nova Scotia back to Ottawa, and realized this is something I really wanted to do. I really wanted to progress in sport. And at the time, obviously, we had the newsletters and we were doing the podcasts. And it made me realize, like I previously said, I want to do this as my career. It's something that I really enjoy doing. I don't want to be stuck behind, a desk doing absolutely nothing, stuff that I don't enjoy. And from there, it really just became looking for opportunities. I believe once I hit January, I was back in my parents' house for Christmas break, and I saw an opportunity online for a marketing coordinator at One Pro Sports Management, or OPSM as we call them. They were sort of looking for someone who could help with their marketing side of things. They're a soccer agency that helps not only university students, but pro soccer players try and progress to the next level. And it was something that I knew the owners and I knew people that worked there previously. And they were very close to home, working with, athletes that I had played with and people that I know personally. And I thought it would just be a great experience. I got to do part-time work, getting to focus on, social media content creation, social media analytics, got to work on website development, got to work with, their partnership team, creating decks for these different brands that they were looking to work with, helping plan different elements of their pro and university combines that they had. And it was in those few short months, I believe it was only January 2022 until late April, I would say. So just in those few 4 short months, I was able to really love what I was doing. While I was still a student working towards graduating, I was learning what I liked. I was figuring out what I liked and really just enjoyed doing it. And it was sort of that, like you said, the spark that made me realize, okay, now I need to look for other opportunities so that once I do graduate, I can work somewhere full time and doing what I love.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to dive into that a bit further, but I kind of, as you were saying it, I just wanted to go back because I think you're just talking about a point with white whale marketing, and I was thinking about this right before we started recording. So just maybe going back to when you and Raul, I think, started helping me out with some of the projects that you were saying is more so just kind of creative things we already wanted to test out at the time, live streams, newsletters, all that stuff. We're kind of just sharpening iron, just kind of things I was doing on the side as well when I was trying to get some business too. Going back to that point, maybe I'll share and you can kind of chime in here because it's my perspective of how we met. I think, right, you're a student, you reached out, and from there, I think I was still at Atletico maybe at the time when we first connected, something like that. And then I think we hit it off, and I was like, hey, like I'm looking at doing something, and if you ever want to help me out with like blogs or something, let's connect. And I think that's maybe when your end of your second year, end of your third year, maybe something like that. We started kind of just doing those projects, and Haral, I think, graduated at that time as well. And the reason I wanted to bring that up is because I think it was so, let's say, lucky, at least for me, and sometimes to kind of meet both of you, just because, obviously you're at OSEG now, Haral's with the Canucks, so that's so cool that, those two guys are kind of helping me out just with creative projects or, doing cool stuff in the sports industry. And I don't know about you, but it almost scares me looking back at that time because I'm just thinking about it. Like Haral was speaking to some protein company in BC. I still remember like we were building a deck for them or something like that. And knowing what I know now, I was like, oh my God, like what were we doing? You know what I mean? Because I feel like I've learned so much or I've grown so much that it almost scares me. Like some of the people we were reaching out to at the time when, I don't know, it's like the first 6 months of the business. And I don't know if you ever have any memories of that or any kind of those time periods, but I think one of the cool things you mentioned there was how maybe through those experiences where we're kind of just trying different things out, you're like, oh, hey, like I really kind of like this and I don't want to do more, where, one of the things that stands out to me that you did was even that Messi Photoshop. I think you sent it in our group chat where you had Messi, where he's looking for a new team. He did a white whale marketing jersey on him. And me and Haral were like, oh, like we're learning something new about AJ every week. We didn't know he could do Photoshop.
Yeah, we didn't remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so go ahead.
Yeah, like you just said, we tried a lot of different things. And, like you just said, where we made when I think it was EC say Paris, when we had pardon my French for any French viewers, we changed it to WWM, I think is what we had it on, just on the black t-shirt when he was arriving at PSG. And I think we even did Warzone. We were playing Warzone a few times, played COD a few times, live streaming on
Twitch. That actually did well, yeah.
And it did well. And we were just trying a bunch of different things. We had the watch along. We did newsletters about what was going on in the sport marketing world. We obviously did the podcast about, those different topics. And we were trying a bunch of different things. We were sort of learning what was working. And then, like you said, looking back, some of the stuff that we were looking into, I believe it was looking with that. Was it a smoothie bar? I think it was out in Vancouver or the protein.
I think that's maybe. I think that was. I don't know. There's like a few things I just think back to it where, like you're saying, I just forgot about that T-shirt that we did in regards to like EC say white whale marketing, but like just kind of cool stuff like that kind of just stood out to me, and I was kind of going down memory lane quickly in my head about that stuff, and kind of just kind of crazy where I'm like, hey, like if I know what I know now, and it's obviously hindsight's 2020. I'm like, if we could apply in that 6-month period where I remember we had like this goal, I'm like, hey, let's hit 100K by September, and we're gonna be good to go. The three of us are going to be able to go full time. I'll take a little bit of less of a salary and we'll kind of go from there. Unfortunately, we didn't hit that, not even close that first year. And I kind of did some soul searching, but it's crazy how like timing works. Or maybe that next year, if that then took place, learned a lot more, had some money in the bank to do that. Where then when I actually then tried to find someone, it was kind of crazy where they just weren't AJ or Haral, right? It was kind of crazy how that period in time, and it was so cool that we were able to kind of try out all those unique things. But yeah, I know that there's some cool things. Even that Pink Panther graphic you did as
Oh
well,
yeah,
where
yeah.
I don't think you share that stuff enough where you kind of show that skill set. I know maybe you do some more now in your current role, but yeah, and I think, and maybe you kind of touch on it because obviously it's a little weird to kind of go down memory lane away while marketing, but yeah, did you find any one of those projects maybe kind of stood out to you? You're like, oh, hey, like this is what really kind of struck a chord with me. Because I think for myself was when I did that personal branding project in university. I was like, oh, I think I can kind of do something like this where it's more like strategically creative is how I like to say it. So I don't know if there's anything like that that then led to One Pro Soccer Management.
I think one of the, like you said, looking back, we started, and when I started, I was just, a second year in university looking for things to sort of grow and do the best that I could. And it was a shock because I didn't have a lot of experience. I didn't really know what I was looking to do. And, like you said, when we did that, the Pink Panther, where we made it, the White Whale movie poster, and, even custom, I was just looking back to some old files the other day as well. We made that custom white, I don't know if you remember the custom White Whale soccer jersey of a picture of Messi. We did that.
Yeah,
one as well.
I wish we ended up printing those. Like those would have been cool to have now.
It would have been really cool. Yeah.
Maybe I'll go back down memory lane and send you and Haral another Christmas package like that again. But yeah, sorry, continue.
So yeah, like even just stuff like that, I realized one of the things that I do say now is my role at OSEG is very unique, but the best way that I like to put it is I get a very good mix of the creative side and the analytical side. So, working with you and Haral, I was able to do a lot of different creative things. We were able to, build decks. We were able to look at all these unique ideas. Even when we were looking at things for the podcast, like looking at, augmented and virtual reality that people are now including in sports, and whether it was esports or traditional sports or even traditional media, it was all these different unique and creative ideas, which really resonated with me. And I was able to take that and then go and work. When I did my work for a short period of time at OPSM, I was still able to do certain things like that when our social media, not as much of the design side of things or, more personally the creative side, but I did get a really good look into the analytical side of things where, I was doing reports on our social media, sometimes on our website, generating numbers for, partners that we were looking to work with. And it really made me realize the balance that I love between the creative side and the analytical side. So I'm not always, sitting on Photoshop or After Effects or Premiere Pro, just working through content, but I'm also not just looking at Excel sheets all day. I've found myself in a really lucky position and fortunate position where I'm in a role that I can sort of combine the two together and, not just focus on one thing every single day, and get to sort of mix the two into one to, do what I enjoy doing, but getting a really good balance of those two really important sides of the job.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. And I guess kind of leading into your role now at OSEG, so maybe you can kind of touch on your time after White Whale Marketing, OPSM, and then OSEG. How did those all come about? Because obviously when we first connected, you reached out to me. It was just kind of, I think, just a nice message. We connected, kind of went from there. So maybe those listening who are either starting their network, growing it, maintaining it, etc., what were the things you were able to do to kind of go from one to the other and ultimately get to where you are now?
Yeah, I think the most important thing was just trying a bunch of different things. So, like you said, working with you and Haral, White Whale, but then also doing work with OPSM. I tried to get involved as I could with St. FX Athletics, was able to work with the sport marketing roundtable with our sport management minor at university. I was just trying to build almost like a personal portfolio, or you could just call it a resume, where not only I was trying to find experience to put it on paper and to show people, hey, I'm, looking to get work. Here's the stuff I've done in the past, but also to build experience on a personal level where I could sort of figure out what I wanted to do. It was tricky at times. Obviously, when I first reached out to you back in my second year of university, it was, we were slowly starting to develop and, figure out and try all these different things. And, once I hit fourth year and I was looking for work, it was a good part-time job with OPSM. And then I realized, okay, now I need something for full-time. I really want to do the sport marketing side of things. I'm really interested in the digital and also content creation. From there, I just was looking for opportunities. I was looking all over the place, where there was in Halifax, in Ottawa, Toronto. And, growing up in Ottawa, I did have some very, very positive and fun experiences. I don't know if you ever experienced it, coming to 67s games as a kid, getting the striped 67s toques, getting the box of Fury games at TD Place, or when Fury was still around, and even some of the Red Blacks games, even though they were, close to winter time when it's, minus 25 outside or minus 20 outside and it's snowing.
Yeah.
But I realized that, I want to be in a sports conglomerate. I want to work in the corporate world, but related to sport in any way that I can. And, OSEG was just basically one of the main, players in this industry, especially in Ottawa. And I did have a connection or two working at OSEG at the time. One of my good friends who played at university with, his name's Quincy. He was working at OSEG at the time, now moved on to Canada Soccer. So he was sort of able to, help me as part of my network to connect me with the right people at OSEG and find out more about the roles that they were offering and find myself where I am now. So it was very lucky. It was right after I graduated university, was able to get a full-time job right away back in the town that I grew up in. So it was a worrisome time, but it was very fortunate to get something right away.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And obviously, I've kind of kept an eye on your career since then. It's just when you were speaking there, just in regards to when we first met to where now. I think you were probably 20. I was 22, which is kind of crazy thing. I'm going on 26 now, in a month or two. But then, yeah, that's so cool that what you've been able to kind of do since then. And obviously, you're kind of a student second year, and now you're, when I talk to you, and you telling me about the digital ads or just the activations you're doing, you're just so knowledgeable in that space as well. So maybe for those listening, if you're able to kind of shine a bit of light on what you do on a day-to-day, right? So what are the types of things your role entails, and what types of things have you been able to learn since then?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got what I would call quite a unique role. In the digital marketing world, you do have people that work on, whether it's a website, they're working on the email side of things. But I get to focus on sort of two main important parts. So my official role is digital advertisement and activations coordinator. So the main bulk of it is the digital advertising side of things. So one of the main things I do is sort of run and manage, with the help of my manager as well, all of the digital ads, whether it's on Meta or Facebook, as most of you would know it, Google, and then through that YouTube as well. So I sort of get to run all of those different ads for the Ottawa Red Blacks, for the Ottawa 67s, and then TD Place. And with TD Place, we also run some digital ads for some of the tenants at TD Place. So whether it's Athletico or the Ottawa Blackjacks. So mainly day to day is just, writing copy, gathering content from our, content team, and transitioning that over and getting some paid spend behind it for digital ads. So a lot of the time it's Meta. A lot of the times we're doing search ads for Red Blacks games on Google. One of the main projects that we're working on right now is sort of like that Amazon All or Nothing series, where we had a year-long behind the scenes sort of season. We're on season 2 right now. It's called Between Barber Poles. Where our content team takes, behind the scenes footage of the 67s day to day, from when they started the season, preseason in September, all the way to end of playoffs in April. So one of the big things is working on getting, trailers on YouTube so that people can click through and watch that. And it's I do have to shout out our content team for that. They did a fantastic job with it. So making sure we get the eyes on it, get the clicks driven to actually watch the series. So that big part of it is just making sure that we can get as many eyes on what's available at TD Place. So that's sort of the main part of the role. The second role is where I do get to do more of the creative side of things. So activations is not exactly a well-known term in the marketing world, but essentially what it is these digital engagement games. So we work with a company out in Vancouver who helps us with their platform, where essentially we get to start from these sort of preset campaigns where we get to create games that go live on email, go on our website, go on social, and even on the TD Place plus Lansdowne app where fans get to play games that we've created for the teams. So some of the things that we've done in the past is, voting for their favorite 67s goal of the season, who was their MVP from the season, goal of the month for the Red Blacks. We do spin to win contests with, merch or ticket offers. We can do, different types of trivia games with partners. We can do, we're even working on a Where's Waldo for one of our players. We get to do all these different types of games that we merge onto our different platforms to let our fans just have a little bit of fun and, drive our fans to come to the games. They see these fun games that they get to play on social or get to play through email. And then hopefully get them to come to these games and be part of the massive fan base for all of our teams at TD Place.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Quite the role you have there, and I'm sure it's only going to increase from there. But yeah, no, I really appreciate you sharing that. And you've probably seen it before. I got 2 questions I like to wrap up the podcast with, right? First one, said it for a while. I'm going to go to 103. I'm going to be on a rocking chair thinking back to the good times. AJ's 103 as well. You're on the rocking chair. What's one story to date that's happened in your career so far? When you're on that chair, it's going to stand out to you and you're going to be like, wow, I can't believe that was a moment in my career that I was able to experience.
I think I've sort of got 2 here. I'll do one that is pretty relevant and more just on the experience side of things. If there's any Red Blacks or even CFL fans out there, last week we had a game at home, somewhat struggling for the start of the season, injuries across the board. And we had a rookie quarterback come in and a fantastic team around him. And we were able to come back from a crazy 16-point deficit in the game with only 2 minutes left. For a team that just showed that much determination, and to hear the crowd go absolutely crazy and, all the hard work that got put into it, getting to see the product on the field and see the fans so happy coming back 16 points in 2 minutes, then winning it in overtime with a rookie quarterback that, had an insane amount of rushing yards. It was just an insane sort of atmosphere at the game, both before, during, and after. And it's just something that's just so unique to experience. You work with not necessarily the team, but you work with the organization day to day, and you really, really look for these positive results from the football side of things. And to actually witness such I'll say a turning point in the season, especially coming back against, a well-class team and a previous, 2-time CFL Grey Cup winners. It was such a great experience to look back and be like, oh, I was there for that insane comeback. I was there to watch as, the team won the game in overtime and the fans went crazy, and fans are really excited to be back after, a few years of COVID and back in the stadium and watching, exciting football. So that's definitely one that has resonated with me as one of the major experience so far, at least from the Red Blacks. From another side, 103 sitting in the rocking chair, I think, one of the most important things I think was, I'll even say my first day working at OSEG, I was, just fresh out of university, only been back in Ottawa. I think it was 4 or 5 days at this point, just moved into a new apartment with some friends. And, I was finally able to see what the corporate life was like and get to learn and get to meet all these different people and, sort of start my role and start my career in the sport marketing industry. And I think that it was a defining point for me. I was finally in a place where I was really happy to be there, really excited to start work, still am every single day, with some really great people, really great teams at a great venue. So it was a big turning point for me. I'd finally graduated. I'd finally sort of started in my career and was just looking forward to all the more education I'd be getting working, meeting all these new people and all the different experiences like that come back the other day, sort of, come into existence. So definitely those 2 are the big ones so far, and hopefully, quite a few more memories to come.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'm sure that they're just around the corner as well. I guess now the last question, right? We went to 103-year-old AJ, went a 16-year-old, 18-year-old, however age you are, going to SFX for that visit. What's one piece of advice that you've now learned that you would have, let's say, gone back in time and shared with a younger version of yourself if you were able to do so?
I think one big thing is, enjoy the little things. There are all these little victories that will happen, especially going through university. It's not an easy time, especially through a global pandemic, I will say. But I think just focusing on the little, like I said, the little victories that you get, you you study really hard, you work really hard, but to enjoy the time as much as possible. But at the same time, keep learning. One thing that I wish I did more was, learn about all these new different things, or try different skills, or, learn about these different topics that could help in everyday life. And I think that's one thing that I wish I did do more, not necessarily that it is a regret, but definitely just, enjoy the little things and continue learning, because, once you do get out of class and you finish an exam or you graduate, you don't stop learning. And once you do start to learn more, your mind and your eyes open up to every different thing that's in the universe and in our world, and specifically in our industry as well. It's exciting. We're in a really fresh industry. We're always, developing, creating brand new things, and just, getting to learn and experience all these new elements that are part of our day to day. It's really exciting now, looking at it now. If I was, 16 years old and, getting that balance between, learning as much as I can, but also enjoying the little things, it would have been great advice to give to my younger self.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. I even like hearing just now as well, just because when you think back about it, like all these different little moments, whether it's in school, when we first met, or whenever, I remember just being stressed for all these, little things as you're mentioning, right? And you're like, oh man, like this is the end of the world. I need to do this, or focus on this, or hey, we have to hit that 100K by September. But at the end of the day, like just sitting back on that, just realizing, those moments when you're in university, I think maybe I did too much of not worrying about exams. I did that well, but like just those other little things where, stepping back and realizing about it all, and you're like, okay, like cool, like that happened. I was able to kind of experience, or, you and I playing Warzone with pro athletes, like that's not something I expected to do. And I was getting lost and all that good stuff. So it's kind of cool when you think back to all that. But no, that's fantastic. I really appreciate getting you on, and we'll definitely have to, I don't know, get an episode eventually one day with you and Haral when you guys, become directors or something like that, where you guys end up going. But yeah, who knows where the road goes, but I really appreciate you
Absolutely
coming on the podcast. Unless there's anything else you'd like to share. Thank you for coming on episode 146.
Yeah, I think, it's been a pleasure to be on, obviously witnessing the growth of White Whale, and especially the roots, or the route, however you choose to pronounce it, the American or the British way. I think, it's been a unique experience over the past few years. And, just as you previously said, like one piece of advice is, an additional thing I could think of as well is, just reach out and try and meet as many people as you can, right? One of the big things that, previous guests and most people in the business world would say is, connect with as many people as you can, whether it's, meeting with them for coffee, exchanging an email, getting on a Zoom call or a Teams call or something like that. It's really important just to spread your network as much as you can and meet all these unique and different people who have had these different career paths and different experiences. And, since that very first email that I sent out in second year, my life has been completely different. My career has been completely different to, if I had never sent out that first set of emails when I was in second year. So I think it is really important to just, don't be afraid to, connect with someone, give someone a call, send someone an email, connect with them on LinkedIn, because, we've been in your shoes before. If you're, someone in university or in high school looking to get experience in this industry, an email never hurts. More than happy to connect and, share experiences and share my thoughts and ideas from my experience and my time in school and getting into this industry as well.
Yeah, no, I don't think you could have said it better there. I wish I would have had it on full screen, but maybe I can do some editing with that. But no, that's fantastic. And if you want to connect with AJ, whether it's on the post when the route comes out on LinkedIn, you'll see we'll tag him there, and you can kind of maybe shoot a message or anything like that. Always good to connect with people. But thanks again for coming on, and that's it for 146.